in the National Football League, as it's not about the Chiefs. It's not about the Bengals. We're not talking about the Eagles right now. And we're not talking about the San Francisco 49ers. So that means we're either talking about the Dallas Cowboys or we're talking about Aaron Rodgers. And that's where we land to start today's show here on Fox Sports Radio, as Aaron Rodgers once again in the news as the Packers quarterback had his weekly spot with Pat McAfee in addressing his future and what could go on with Aaron Rodgers. This was Aaron Rodgers earlier today on the Pat McAfee Show.
Usually you would think they would wait until maybe the off week between the championship weeks and the Super Bowl to drum up some storylines, because there is, 2 great games this Sunday and obviously 4 really deserving teams to be playing. I have, some people that love to track that stuff, so I've been made aware of it. Listen, there's heroes and villains in sports and entertainment. And I think because of my stance on COVID and maybe some other things, I've been cast as the villain, especially the last few years. And so that is the way that, a lot of things I said are often interpreted. I'm not upset about that. I don't feel like a victim in any way. I don't have that mentality. That's fine. I actually embraced that role a little bit, if that's how you want to cast me. But I did see there were some comments that, I'm only playing for MVPs and stuff like that. Didn't maybe quite see the entire clip of some of the stuff that I said. I don't care about that stuff. It doesn't offend me. I mean, this culture, this woke culture wants to be offended by everything. You just go online and find something you don't agree with. I'm offended. How could you possibly say that? Yes. I don't really care. I don't care who it's coming from or who said it. They're entitled to their opinion. It might not be right. And every now and then you got to get on here and say, hey, you found some like, that's just not true. Like, let's just tone it back a little bit. You might need to do that. Most of the time, you just kind of gloss over it. Who cares? It doesn't really matter. Because it honestly doesn't matter. It doesn't affect my day-to-day. It doesn't interrupt my whale-watching time. It doesn't interrupt me at all during the day. I don't think, agonize about like, Gronk said, I shouldn't be worrying about MVPs. I'm like, I know Gronk. I love Gronk. He's awesome. He's fun energy to be around. Like, but what do they do? If you take the right sound bite from the right thing, and it's a station that may or may not have in the past been brought to you by Pfizer, then they got to make sure that their villain, gets cast in the correct light. And whether or not they're, sponsored by Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, whatever it might be. What? When you go up against some of those powers that be, you put yourself in the crosshairs. They're going to paint you in a certain way. And that's what the media did to me a couple of years ago. That's fine. That's their prerogative. That's what they want to do. But I think I responded, pretty good in those times. And I'm glad I went through that. And anything that comes after that, small potatoes, bro.
Okay, so look, my read on it is this. And basically this is what I said last week on this very same show. I said, Gronk is simply reacting to a cut. He didn't listen to the entirety of the interview. He's right. Now, that's where Aaron gets himself into this, like, conspiracy theorist world where he starts going like, well, they were brought to you by Pfizer. Like, dude, none of that comes up in a show meeting. None of it does. The problem is a producer plays a clip for you. What do you think? He didn't say anything about championships? Like, no, he said MVPs. Like, okay, but he actually did say something about championships previous to it. So we're no further along. We're no further along. Now you have Adam Schefter saying, hey, the Packers are going to consider trading Aaron Rodgers, just not to an NFC team. So where is he getting his info? Generally, he gets it from agents. I did not hear any sort of the follow-up in regards to the possibility of being traded. I just think at the end of the day, the Packers don't plan on trading him. But they know they can't force Aaron to do something he doesn't want to do. And if he doesn't want to play for him and he won't play for him, and he won't retire, then maybe at that point they have to have contingency plans. This is the problem with Schefter's reporting, which is, okay, is it their plan or is it their contingency plan? Because there's a ton of dead cap money. And I'm sure they don't want to actually move him. They want to have him back. And if you actually read the details of that deal, it's basically a 2-year contract where, they probably had a commitment to Aaron Rodgers to come back. And we were told all this year how much better their working relationship was. So this is Aaron leveraging. That's all it is. He wants to come back and play one more year, but he wants to leverage who's helping. He doesn't want to run that offense. And he wants certain additions to the team within, obviously, what they can do salary cap wise. They have a good running game. The young wide receivers are coming along. They're not far away. So, but I agree with him in terms of people have make him out to be the villain. Some of it he does to himself. Some of it is that we hold grudges because of previous transgressions. And his transgressions are he was completely dishonest, knowingly, willfully dishonest about the vaccine thing and tried to outsmart everybody. So I agree with him that we do need a villain. We do overreact. We do react to clips. Do I think it has something to do with who sponsors the show? No. No, it doesn't. I've never been, not in one single TV or radio meeting, where anybody says, hey, we got to talk about this because of this sponsor. Never once. Never once. Dan, what do you think? Dan Beyer?
Yes, I just was going to say, do you want to know what I think about his comments or what I think they're going to do? All right, because I botched this a week ago when I did this on Fox Sports Radio.
How'd you botch it?
The lady doth protest too much, methinks. I mean, that was 2 minutes of, I don't care about this, but guess what? I care about it because I'm going to bring up Gronk 40 seconds later, and I'm going to bring up this, and I'm going to bring up that. And you know what? I don't care about it, but guess what? I'm going to circle back to it and tell you why I don't care about it. But it's still apparently like I care about it. So I don't care about that stuff, but I care about it. Like that was 2 minutes of that from Aaron Rodgers. And listen, if you don't want, Gronk talking about it or you don't have a problem with it, do Cliff Kingsbury. You know what? See you in Thailand. I'm gone. I'm off the map. This stuff bothers him. And it does. And that's the part about it is when you just kept going and going and going. Whether he stays in Green Bay or not, I don't know. I think Jordan Love is ready, and it's just a matter of if Green Bay wants to take that next step and feels that they can move on and be better without Aaron Rodgers. I feel Jordan Love is ready, and if there was a time to do it, now would be the time. But I just love him coming on there, and to your point of, Gronk didn't do the Pfizer thing, but it wasn't even about that. It was about the MVPs and I love Gronk. Like everything circled back to something that he said he didn't care about to show that he probably does care about it a little bit more than we thought.
Oh, no question. Okay, so what do you think they'll do? You're by the way, you're right. But I also think you're right. It does bother him, but it's like it seems pretty obvious. The reason he does the McAfee thing is it provides him a platform to say anything he wants unchallenged. And I'm sure that he sat there and it's a point of frustration. Like I literally said last week, why play unless you can win the whole thing? I said that, and I mean that. So I think it's a bit of frustration, but you're right. The more you say something doesn't bother you and you talk about it constantly, it quite obviously bothers you.
Yeah, exactly. And there now just seems to be, whether who is feeding what insider, whether it be Peter King, whether it be Adam Schefter, there is something going on here. And the way that we've seen quarterbacks move in these last couple of years, I feel a lot stronger today than I did 24 hours ago that Aaron Rodgers is not going to be a Green Bay Packer next year.
Is not? Yeah.
Yes, that he would end up whether he's traded, retires, whatever the case may be. But somebody needs something out there. So that's why these insiders have these stories.
Yeah, I just don't know who it is.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
I don't know who it is. Somebody keeps putting it out there with Schefter about the possibility of trading him, and I don't know who that is or what that's about.
And if it was from Rodgers' side of thing, let's just say it was, then I think they'd even be more inclined to do it. If it's a Green Bay thing and Rodgers wants to, stick his heels in and then that may be a little bit more difficult. But where there's smoke, and I think that there's smoke today, and I think that there's something to it.
Do you think it's a leverage play from the Packers from this standpoint? Where would Aaron Rodgers want to play? That needs a quarterback. San Francisco, right? I'm sure he looks at that and goes, man, that would be awesome. Right? Mm-hmm. That team, the team I originally wanted to play for, that coach, that would be awesome. Now, it is LaFleur, the same system, LaFleur and Shanahan. I don't think he likes it. Okay. Where else in the NFC is it possible that they could use a quarterback?
New Orleans.
Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Really that entire division, right? New Orleans, sure. Carolina, Tampa. Not that you want to go to Tampa.
Washington.
Washington, yeah, Washington. So all of those. So the question becomes: is this a leverage of like, hey, dude, look, if you come in here and say you want to be traded, that's great. We're going to trade you to the Jets. Have fun with that one.
I would say, though, with the teams that we mentioned, the Jets would be, I think, a better option than a majority of the teams we mentioned, if not all of them, of teams of younger talent. The question would be their offensive line, but their defense, does have pieces. I brought up the Saints because they've got a couple of good young wide receivers. They do have an offensive line. Their defense seems set up, but.
And the question is, could you play with Sean Payton come back to coach that? Right. Sure. So there's just a lot to it. I don't know. Again, I don't know what the answer is. But I do wonder if that's part of the leverage play, which is because it's a weird one to be out there where he hasn't said he's coming back and playing yet. And he hasn't offered up the idea. And they only offer up the idea of playing for somebody else. I don't know. I don't know. It's going to be it's a fascinating day in Green Bay. But for the record, though you're right, he clearly cares more than he says he cares. I would also point out that he is right. Many people have decided he's the bad guy, and you take any clip and make it negative. And I want to be very careful as to not do that. And we were last week. We did a really good job of presenting the stuff as like, it's not actually what he said. It's not in the full context of it. Let's not do the clip thing that he is talking about. But in our profession, many people don't do that. What do you think, Jay Stu?
I think this is fascinating. I love that he keeps doing the McAfee Show. And to Dan's point, you spend 2 minutes on that platform saying that things don't bother you. They obviously do. Dan brings up the Jets, and I'm going to use this time to promote my tweet about it.
Oh, it's a good tweet too.
So
I just retweeted it.
Yeah, one of the aggregates said that Rodgers might be heading to the Jets or whatever, and I gave a likely timeline if he does. I think if he's traded to the Jets, I think he's going to send an inappropriate text to a reporter in 2024. And then in 2025, he's going to be traded to the Vikings. And then in 2042, he's going to be caught in a fraud scam where he costs his home state millions of dollars.
So funny. He's Brett Favre 2.0 is what you're saying, right?